So again, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this first Ramadan Special edition. And it looks like this is going to be more of a podcast than a video cast. So we'll just have to do the best we can, yeah? And
Sure.
I want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone for joining. And we had a couple of speakers that were lined up for today that couldn't make it for some different circumstances, unfortunately. So the two people who would be presenting an idea today would be Brother Muhammad and myself. But before we do that, I just want to ask, how is everybody doing? How is everyone's Ramadan?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Ramadan is going,
A little under the
fine.
weather, but Alhamdulillah.
Okay, good. And for you, Jamal, how's it going?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, everything is going fine. It's a little bit hard sometimes with my job. I have a very physical, demanding job,
Oh, yeah.
but it's okay.
What do you do?
Alhamdulillah. I work in a dispatch of a company that produces bumblebees for crops. So we have to prepare every how do you say it in English? Every delivery for the clients.
I
We have
see.
to prepare it. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Okay, cool. So you have challenges on the physical side, right? Because it takes a lot of hard work, right?
Yeah. But it's okay, Alhamdulillah. It makes things spicier.
Yeah. That definitely sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So good to hear. So Mr. Hassan, Mr. Santiago, if you want to speak, you're welcome to just unmute at any time. But otherwise, I would say let's go forward with what we have. So Muhammad, I would just propose that you begin with your presentation today, just a little bit of a dialogue of your idea. If I remember the topic.
Oh, wow.
A little. You're first today, because it's a little bit about Islamic finance and the philosophy of what is halal. And maybe you can explain that a little bit better, so to speak, and we take it from there. Yeah.
Okay, can do. Let me just have a gist of an idea. Brother Jamal, where are you currently located?
In Belgium.
Belgium. All right.
You guys have not met yet, yeah?
What?
We only met on Facebook.
Okay,
yeah, only
okay.
Right.
I thought maybe you had already connected with each other. Okay.
No.
More or less here or there, just some comments of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then our two other brothers, Hassan and Santi, maybe can just type in the chat if you guys are shy. Where are you at? But because I find that the question of location or the country that you're in pretty much has an influence on how you're gonna deal with finance. And there's also an issue of the take-up rate or the response when it comes to Islamic finance. And I would say Islamic finance in inverted commas, right? So for our brothers, probably Brother Kamal just texted me saying that he's unable to make it.
Okay.
So I was just about to mention
that's
his name.
correct. I know. Yeah. He mentioned that. Yeah. That's why you're first.
So like for our brother Kamal, right? He's in Malaysia. Sometimes it is said that Malaysia actually kick-started Islamic finance somewhere in 1975. Right. And so when the Shafi'i started something, I felt the same.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand it.
If the Shafi'i started something, they can get a bit rigid at times, right?
They can get a bit what? They can get a bit
rigid.
Rigid. Okay, yeah. I understand.
Right.
But you were asking where the brothers are from, so maybe Hassan and Santiago, you can just introduce yourself in the chat or as you like.
Yep.
Okay, just shortly. I am from Bulgaria in Eastern Europe.
Mashallah. Thank you very much, Hassan. Santiago?
Yeah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. I'm from Spain, but I live in the UK.
Mashallah. So we are pretty much UK centric here.
So I'm Spanish and I converted to Islam 10 years ago. So and now I'm living here in the UK. Yeah.
Mashallah.
Bienvenidos.
So how's
No problem.
Right. Alhamdulillah. So how's the Islamic finance take-up rate or response in the UK? I mean, if you guys have any idea.
I don't know what I say about this one really, because I don't have too much contact with the Muslim community here, because most of them are Deobandis, Hanafis, Salafis.
Okay. Wow.
So I don't have too much.
What a place to be in.
I don't have too much relationship with them really.
Mashallah. Okay.
No,
Cool.
Here we have some banks, that they're allowed to have, a Sharia account with no riba, with no interest. So this is good.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. And what about in Bulgaria, Hassan? Do you have any Islamic finance in Bulgaria? Do you see anything happening there?
I'm not expert in the field, so I cannot say anything. But we are Muslim minority here, and we do not have many developed structures.
You are basically kind of a Turkish-based minority. Is that true?
We are both Bulgarians and Turks, which are Muslims, the minority. And the majority of Bulgarians, they are Orthodox Christians.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. And Jamal, you're from Belgium, you said? And where are your parents from, or where is your family descendancy?
My mother is pure Belgian, born and raised here, and my father is Pakistani, from Jhelum in Pakistan. I don't know if there is anyone from Pakistan here, but yeah, my father is Pakistani, and my mother is Belgian.
Okay. Pleasure. Actually, my Imam Sayyid Razvi became Pakistani because he was born, of course, in Bihar in India. But then after partition, of course, with all the other Muslims, he was somehow shipped off to the British, thank you very much, present, goodbye, present, Pakistan, and basically he ended up in Pakistan. So this is how they divided the empire after leaving. Thank you very much, Great Britain. So he ended up getting his education as an Islamic mujtahid and judge, Sharia judge in Pakistan, and worked there for several years before moving to Hamburg, Germany. And then he taught here in Hamburg for 50 years. And he had many students here, and I was lucky and blessed somehow to be one of his students. And that's the basis of this course that I teach here, okay? So just to give you a background of, because I see a couple of new guys in this group, so just to give you a little bit of the background of what we're trying to do and how we're teaching here and what the scope is that we're trying to provide. And if you have any questions on that about Sayyid Mehdi Imam Razvi, my teacher, or in general, just ask any time, okay?
Yeah, maybe after Muhammad finishes his presentation about economics, I do have some questions about Imam Razvi, inshallah.
Inshallah, that's good. That's good. So we can take that as my topic then, because I was still struggling for a topic, but now I have one.
Yeah, it's a pity that Kemal Ismail couldn't make it today.
I know. I was really looking forward to his.
Me too. Maybe next time, inshallah.
Inshallah. He has a very good reason, and I don't want to say what that reason is, but he has a very, very legitimate reason.
No problem.
So it's absolutely okay, and hopefully the next time we'll be able to get him on board as well.
Yeah. You should push him to come next time.
I think we'll basically let him have the next time that he can. We'll give him the floor and just let him speak. It doesn't matter if it's. I don't think it'll be this month, given his reasoning. I think it'll probably more like in 1 or 2 months. But we hope that we'll be able to get him on board, inshallah. And I'm very interested to hear his exposition.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, so having said all of that, and after all the intros, maybe Muhammad, you can take over. Just one last thing, in case the link runs out, because these are 45-minute links. So in case the link runs out, I'll just resend a new link into the chat. Okay, and then you guys can just jump back in the chat and click the second link. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, we've gotten a brief idea of where everyone's located. But pretty much we have established that we are all respectively in our respective countries, we are Muslim minorities. So probably you would find what I have to share for today more relevant. I mean, for our brother Kamal, when he's in Malaysia, dominantly Muslim. So Islamic finance pretty much started from there. So as a country that's generally Muslim, they are able to implement from the top-down approach in terms of regulations. If they want to enforce something, they can, right? But for people like you and me, when we are in Muslim minority, when we want to, sometimes we feel that, okay, we should have everything halal. No doubt, as Muslims, we want to do everything halal. But the question is, what exactly is halal? Hence why the topic of my sharing today is about Islamic finance and relating it to the philosophy of halal. There's always the conception that a conventional finance is riba-based, in inverted commas, all right? Hence the perception that, we cannot take conventional finance. We can only take anything that is Sharia compliant. But on the other hand, we have to acknowledge that Sharia compliant windows or Islamic windows in most banks, generally they operate under a conventional bank. So how does that not create any gray area or shubha? All right. So having said that, I do respect and agree to disagree with friends who are in Islamic finance. I mean, they are doing something good. But let us take a step back and understand what exactly is halal. All right. The basic maxim in fiqh is al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. The origin of a matter is permissible. So by that default, banking.
Okay. Can I stop you there, Muhammad? So does everybody understand that? Because that is such a fundamental principle, not only for Islamic finance, but for everything. Islam, okay?
Everything.
That I want to make sure that everybody's on board with that. So does everybody understand the principle? The principle is, unless it's declared haram specifically, it's basically halal, okay? It's allowed. Yes. Unless it's specifically haram. And some scholars have different gray areas, and there are gray areas, and there's no question about that. But in general, the basic principle is, if it's not considered haram, it's halal. If you don't know, it's halal. Okay? In other words, if you don't have a clear definition, it's halal.
Yes.
Okay, are there disagreements with that in the group? Because before we proceed, we have it clear. I see a skeptical face and I see two no faces, so I don't know whether we're...
No, it's not a skeptical face. I was just thinking about, of course I agree. I think everyone agrees that the asl of everything is the ibaha, the permissibility of everything, unless something is explicitly declared haram, or you can deduce a valid qiyas to declare something haram. So I agree with that. I was just thinking about when I was learning Islam in here in Belgium with the Salafiyya. They always
They had the opposite principle, right? Their principle is the opposite.
No, not all of them. There was one group, he was not a sheikh, he was an ustad, who told us that in ibadat, everything is haram unless it's declared halal or it's prescribed by Allah or its Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yep.
So I was just thinking about that caveat in ibadat, that there is an exception, but you already said that there are exceptions, that there are gray areas. So I was just thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. I mean, the ibadis are quite, let's say, strict in their view, and if they can theologically justify it, we'd have to accept it. Okay, this is the way that we look at it as Zaydiyya, particularly. If they can demonstrate through the process of ul-aql, right, the science of reason, okay, that their position is correct, then we would have to assume their position, okay, actually. But until now, we have a consensus in the broader majority of actually all of the madhahib within Islam, and the consensus holds till today, that whether you're, Ithna Ashari, whether you're Zaydi, whether you're Ismaili, whether you're any of the four Ahlul Sunnah groups, whether you consider yourself as Salafi or whatever it is, or a Zahiri or whatever is your school, or even if you don't have a school and you just drift between the lines, so to speak, then basically you accept this principle. I've never really heard anyone explicitly reject this principle. So this is a very, let's say, unique situation. But of course, they have the right to their point of view, and we accept that. Of course, we have our own consensus, and we live by that. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Muhammad, for your patience. Back to you.
No worries. So Alhamdulillah, I mean, I would, just to make things a bit more simplified, I would describe Islamic finance as similar to halal food, right? So when there's a Muslim community in a country, any country for that matter, one of the first things that we want to work first is actually ensuring that there are halal food available for the community, be it the Zabiha meat or be it the suppliers and so on and so forth. So that's when halal certification came about. So we have processes, or we have bodies and authority who actually do the checking, go around, make sure that the processes are in place to ensure that the food supplies, the food being served are halal, which is good, Alhamdulillah. But the problem that we face currently at the moment when it comes to halal food is, oh, if this is not certified halal, I would regard it as haram. I'm not sure whether you guys face it in your respective countries, but here in Singapore, Malaysia, they have developed such an attitude. But if I don't see the halal certification, I would regard it as though it is haram. Which
with regards
isn't the right
to meat.
Meat,
Food,
yes.
yeah, okay, yeah.
So, but that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case. I mean, if it's fish and chip, it's fish and chip. That's it.
Yeah.
It's fish and chip, right? But some like, oh, Farhan, why are you drinking in Starbucks? Starbucks is not halal certified. But I'm drinking coffee, right? I'm drinking coffee. It's not that. I mean, it's different if you're questioning whether I'm eating the pastries or the sandwiches, or then the due diligence is on me to verify with the barista is this pastry or croissant, is it Muslim friendly? If it is, then so be it. Alhamdulillah. If they said I'm not too sure about the ingredients that they use, then okay, then you take the cautious approach. Okay, I'll step back. I shall not order that. Right?
And I think that if I may, just Muhammad, I think that as you say, we in are being minorities in our own kind of countries as Muslims, and I think that it's a very legitimate point, because I find myself, even when I go to a Turkish restaurant, for example, or to an Arabic restaurant here in Germany, okay, in the time when there were restaurants, right? I always ask, because if you didn't ask, you wouldn't be sure, because sometimes the suppliers of the food are not sourcing, even though they're supposedly Muslim because of nationality, but they're not sourcing from the Muslim places because maybe it's more expensive, or maybe they're just lazy and they don't care. Some of them are not religious necessarily. Many Turkish are not religious. So you don't know exactly what you're going to get. So you go there knowing that you need to ask, basically, because you cannot rely on it being halal. Okay, just because he's Turkish, it's halal. No, unfortunately, it's not like that. Yeah. Or just because he's Arabic, it's halal. No, he might be Arabic Christian, or he might just not care. Yeah. So, so it's a bit. I think all of us understand this challenge that you're talking about.
Correct. So that's the same approach can be applied to finance, because, I mean, in some areas you can get easy access to Sharia compliant products. Some areas you may not. And the challenge that we face, because I'm a financial planner I've been in the industry for 10 years now, so I understood this challenge pretty much. I was from the 100% Sharia compliant approach, and now let's do it flexible, all right? Because in Singapore, we are at a position right now, we are not able to cater to the different needs, the different product types that are Sharia compliant. So does that mean that as a Muslim, you shouldn't adopt financial planning, or you shouldn't plan anything with regards to your finances for your own needs, for your own livelihood? So the basic philosophy of halal is one, but at the same time, we need to move on to the maqasid of Sharia, the higher objectives of Sharia, which is your livelihood still needs to continue. And I personally, I mean, I believe most of us here, we are more inclined to the Ra'i school, and we always believe that the Sharia wasn't legislated to make lives difficult. Yes, there are boundaries to be observed, but it is not meant to make your life difficult. All right. So how do you approach finance in our respective countries? Yeah. If there is a Sharia compliant option available and it serves our need, by all means, go ahead. That will be a preferred choice. But doesn't mean that you cannot adopt something else. Right? Back up the challenges that I personally faced in Singapore back then was a Sharia compliant option was available, but only investment based. But when it comes to financial planning, not everyone is willing to take the risk of an investment. So can they opt for non-investment based but not Sharia compliant? So these are some of the considerations, you see. So I give the analogy that, yeah, okay, back then, the Sharia compliant option was available as a form of investment, but in terms of financial planning, you need more than that. So the Sharia compliant options becomes like prawns. Okay, I'm talking from the Shafi'i context, yeah. Prawns are permissible. The Hanafis might not agree, but it's okay. So yeah, the Hanafis don't agree, right? Prawns are halal, so we respect them for that.
I'm sorry, so, what? I didn't catch it acoustically. What was the word?
The Hanafi do not accept prawns as permissible, so we respect that the khilaf.
You mean as the metal or? Oh, prawns, yeah, of course.
Prawns.
Yeah, okay, okay, I get it.
Shrimps, right?
I got it. Sorry. Right. Okay.
So, I've always equated the Sharia compliant option that was available back then to be similar like prawns, right? Yes, it is halal, but there are people who are allergic to prawns, so they can't take it. So can't we open up other options for them? So at the end of the day, for me, in today's short sharing, I would say that always be guided by the basic principle that the origin of a matter is permissible, unless it's clear-cut unpermissible. Then of course, you would choose something that is suitable for you, be it whether you are engaging the banker or the broker or the financial planner. They are in that position to be able to better advise you whether certain products are suitable for your needs and your concerns. And with that, technically, there shouldn't be any issues. And you have that option, that free will to decide what is best for you. All right. So basically, that's the gist of my sharing today. Of course, I mean, when it comes to the technicalities of riba, all that will require a separate discussion on its own.
Okay, because I was going to ask that now. So what is riba then, and what is gharar, right? Because riba and gharar are obviously the two big issues. And if you ask me, in today's economy, I would say gharar is actually a bigger issue than riba, because riba is more or less, you have a very flat interest rate at the moment. You can almost not call it interest. So that's one thing, but gharar is still taking place. I mean, if you look at the global economy and all of the movements of capital, also electronic, basically algorithm-driven investments taking place on a macroeconomic scale all over the world. I mean, gharar is just happening at an incredible, blinding pace almost, and it's I think it's really almost more a threat today is gharar than necessarily riba. So maybe just this aspect you could maybe, without going into technical details, just kind of highlight.
Agreed. So that would be pretty apt, because we identify the actual problem in finance or in economics currently, which is not necessarily be riba, but the gharar itself, especially with the blooming of cryptocurrencies and all that.
Exactly.
I mean, I personally would not issue any statement with regards to cryptocurrency. If you feel you're for it, go ahead by all means. But as long as you know what you're getting yourself into, right? But if we were to go, let's take a step back and understand how we approach mu'amalah, our daily living as a whole, right? Firstly, establish that it is permissible, right? Secondly, understand whether there's issues of gharar or issues of riba, which can be fundamentally understood as,
Excuse me, just for interrupting.
Sure.
So the riba, I know what it means, but the other term you are using, gharar or whatever it is, can you just briefly explain its meaning?
Cool. Okay, let's take a step back. So gharar is basically uncertainty. All right. In the classical fiqh books, when we study fiqh, what is gharar? The classical example given is always about, okay, I'm a farmer, right? I own a farm, sheep, goats, chicken, duck. So what I own is certain. So you can pick any goat or any cow that I have on my farm. Clear? That is certain. But what if I come to you, you will like, I'm telling to you, okay, brother Jamal, I'm selling you this duck that is flying on that tree. Now, how can you be certain that I'll be selling you that exact same duck or same bird that is on that particular tree?
Yeah, it's
usually
another way to call
example.
this is a speculation, yeah, because if you deal in economics, there's always an uncertainty in the sense that I can buy a cow from Muhammad for a certain amount of money, thinking the cow will give milk for 10 years, and then I can kill it and eat it, okay, if I want to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe the cow dies tomorrow after I buy it, but I cannot go back to Muhammad and say I want my money back because the cow died, because he will say, well, you should have inspected the cow before you bought it, yeah? So there's always an element of uncertainty in any economic transaction. There's always an element of inshallah somehow, yeah? But the speculation means a kind of an inbuilt economic incentive to speculate. So in other words, one of the principles of today's capitalist system, as it has been, let's say, exported throughout the world through British American colonization of the last 400 years, more or less, is basically speculation. In other words, investing in products, expecting a certain growth return without necessarily understanding the underlying market economics, okay? And without necessarily being able to control the market dynamics that are underlying the macroeconomics, okay? This gets a little bit technical in terms of economics, but basically what we're saying is that when the banks are creating products like, you know, cash swaps or derivatives, they package a bunch of housing debts together and they go to the market and they sell the housing debt thinking that somehow they have a product that is going to increase in money when the people start repaying their debt, but then the people don't repay their debt because it's an economic problem. So the whole housing market crashes like back in 2007, 2008, okay? This is a system that is based on pure speculation, and that's why it's actually gharar, yeah? And
so
this is just to understand what it means, gharar, yeah, from my point of view, yeah?
Indeed. So, when it comes to gharar, we need to, of course, understand that there's natural gharar. That means, like Brother Sidi Musa was saying earlier on, there are some form of speculation in life that's normal, expected, natural, and that's the unnatural type. So the unnatural type is the one that is forbidden. But the natural type of gharar, what example can we come up with? The classical example, if I remember, someone can't remember who's the speaker or the preacher who was saying, natural gharar can be for our married brothers, right? When you got married, you sign a marriage certificate. Agreed?
Yes.
So when does your marriage certificate expire? Is there a date on the Is there a date of expiry on the marriage cert? There isn't. But death is certain as well as uncertain. Agree? And death is one of the common factors that would terminate that marriage contract. So in that regards, that is gharar in a way, but it's natural. Something that everyone is used to. Okay. So when it comes to
example that Musa gave about the cow, and the cow, you buy the cow and the cow dies, would that also fall under a natural gharar?
Good question. You have to be a little more specific on it. So because Musa naturally, okay. So what I would
example, if I sell you a cow on the on the pretext that it will give you milk for about 10 years and then you can kill it and eat it. And that cow dies in 3 days after you buy it from me. Would that fall under the natural gharar because it's death that terminated the contract, or am I understanding it in the wrong way?
So the way that I meant the example, just to make it short and sweet, Jamal, is that the seller did not know that there was anything wrong with the cow. Okay, of course, if the seller knows that there's an illness in the cow, then he's basically, it's not even harar, it's just theft. Yeah, because he's basically not being honest in the sale of his product. So you wouldn't call it harar, you would simply call it theft. Okay, but in some way a deception or it even goes beyond harar.
Yes.
Yeah? But if you don't know, and let's say the cow gets hit by a bus, okay, then that's the risk that you live with in a way. As a buyer, you go and buy, you spend money, you buy the cow, and the cow might get hit by a bus, or it might simply fall off a cliff, or something might happen. That's a natural kind of speculation that you could claim as a natural kind of haram. Yeah?
All right. Yep. So fundamentally, so when it comes to the economic markets, when it comes to speculations, I think for me personally, you will have to gauge how is the degree of speculation. What is natural, what is normal, and what's abnormal. So naturally, if we were to reflect back on past economic cycles, anything that's the speculation degree that's too high, it's bound to fall. It's bound to fall apart. But anything that is properly managed by the respective regulators, usually the speculation is being controlled.
Okay, guys, apologies to interrupt. This link is going to end in about 1 minute, so I'm going to send a new link in the chat. So we hope for your patience, and guys, please jump in about 2 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Ciao, ciao.
So do we need to leave first, right?
Yeah, I'm going to exit the meeting, and then we start again, okay?
Sure.
See you in a moment, inshallah.